Hello and welcome to another episode of the Popcorn Conspiracy. I'm Dave G, and joining me right now is my co-host.
Hello everybody, I'm Kyle.
And today we're taking a look at the brand new film by Guy Ritchie called The Wrath of Man. And I'm going to admit I was pretty excited going into this film because I'm a huge Jason Statham fan and I'm a huge Guy Ritchie fan. In fact, I still don't think that when it comes to gangster films or crime films, Guy Ritchie has made a bad film. And I say that because there's that abomination called Swept Away that's there in his career. And that's not a gangster film, so that one doesn't tie in there. But this time, it's a remake of a European film. It centers around a character called H, played by Jason Statham. And at the start of the film, he goes and gets a job working for an armored car company. He's trained by Bullet, played by Holt McCallany, and H seems to have this unique ability with the job. He ends up saving the day when there's when a robbery happens, and he becomes a little bit of a hero around the place. And then there's people like Boy Sweat Dave, played by Josh Hartnett, that kind of look up to him, but they don't want to admit that they're his friend because he's taken the jobs of some of the other people that work there. And this is a company that needs all the help that they can get because they recently had a robbery happen where two of their drivers got killed and everything went south very, very quickly. Now, I won't give too much away about this storyline because there is some great twists and turns in this film. So if you just know the basics going into this film, it's all that you really, really need. Mate, I know this is a hard movie to talk about because you don't want to give away those twists and turns, but what did you think of Wrath of Man?
Oh man, I loved it. I swear. Oh man, I just loved it. I agree with you, man. I'll say that right off. I wish I hadn't seen the trailer for this movie because it does kind of give away little bits of the story that I wish going into it I didn't know. Those kind of things in the movie, what I did know, they're revealed about halfway through. So it wasn't like a final, an ending twist or something that the trailers ruined. But man, yeah, it really is a movie that you got to go into blind, I think. I find Guy Ritchie to be a little hit or miss recently. Where I love some of his movies and find others to be kind of a bit of a letdown, like King Arthur and Man from U.N.C.L.E. I wasn't really as much of a fan of them. But I loved The Gentleman, and I really loved his Sherlock Holmes films.
Yeah.
Going into this, I was really excited for it, seeing that it was he was making another movie with Jason Statham. I was really looking forward to it, and this, I think it's exactly what I was looking for in a Guy Ritchie movie starring Jason Statham, while at the same time it's something quite different to what Guy Ritchie normally makes. I know it's a remake, and I won't hold that against it too much, because I do feel that this suited Guy Ritchie's style, and he added a lot of his own flair to the story to make one real kick-ass movie. So, what did you think of it, man?
Oh man, I absolutely loved this film. The Gentleman made my top 5 movies of last year, and I'm pretty sure this one's going to be in my top list for this year too, because I just absolutely loved it. In fact, the only way I can describe it is if I ever become a filmmaker, which I want to do one day, this is the kind of movie that I hope I make. I would love to have been directing this film. Going with what you said before about not watching the trailer, also don't read a cast list, because there's a act of this film that happens quite a long way in, and one of the people who is billed as a star only comes into it at that stage. So for the entire film, I was sitting there going, I wonder when he's going to show up. It's almost 3/4 of the way through and he's not there. When's he going to show up, kind of thing. But having said that, I also love some little surprises with this. I love Eddie Marsan as an actor, and I didn't even know that he was in this. So when he popped up as Terry the Boss, I was kind of like, oh, cool. It's kind of weird because it's an American film. It's set in LA, but it has a very, very British feel to it. Not only because you've got Jason Statham in there, but Guy Ritchie using people like Eddie Marsan in there. And normally when you see a film shot in LA, it's bright, it's colourful, they use the sun to their advantage. This movie doesn't do that. It's got a very bleached out kind of feel to it. That it's dark and dour, and you almost wonder why Guy Ritchie didn't make it set in London, because like it is so dark and dour, and even the way that he shoots it, it's like it's not the pretty areas of LA, it's like the rough areas. And I love the fact that he's made an American film, but it feels like it should have been shot in London in a sense.
Yeah, man. As you say, it's Guy Ritchie's darkest film by far, I would say. Like, I never saw Swept Away, and I haven't seen Revolver, which Revolver I think is his only other movie that's actually set in America.
Yeah.
But like this is by far, from what I've seen, his bleakest, darkest, grittiest film to date, which is funny considering he's been making gangster films since the early 90s, so like for 30 years, and this is his darkest film. But like all of his movies had some degree of lightheartedness to the dialogue and the scenarios and even to the violence, but this one's like it's the complete opposite of that. There's one or two comedic moments with editing or funny lines here and there, but beyond that, it's handled very seriously. The sheer brutality of some parts of the movie it's almost depressing at times, because when you see that some of the characters, even though you may have grown to like them, it doesn't mean that they're going to survive. So that's something I was really pleased to see Guy Ritchie doing something that it had his style to it, but it still at the same time felt like he was breaking new ground. He was doing something completely different than what we've kind of grown to expect from him.
Yeah.
And I think I always love seeing when a filmmaker does that, when he really kind of gets out of his comfort zone. And yeah, I love that about this movie.
Yeah, this feels like Guy Ritchie's The Godfather. Like it really feels like at the end of his career, this is the film that people are going to look back at and say that was his best film. And I don't know, maybe next year he'll make an even better film. But going on his career to date, and like he seems like he's just getting better and better. Like I love Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. It's one of my favorite films. But when you compare that to what he did with The Gentleman and now this one, it's almost like you're talking about two different directors. Like the style of those films is just, even though they're gangster films, he's matured as a director and it's showing. But this is like, I can't describe this film in any other way but saying it's an absolute masterpiece. Like there's the twists and turns in this. The screenplay is phenomenal. It's a non-linear timeline in this film. It jumps all over the place, but never once do you ever feel lost. You don't see a lot of the twists and turns coming in this film, and as a result, it's like a real surprise when they do appear. Like it's almost Hitchcockian in that style where he does that, where the reveals are just so great. Like even stuff about H's life itself, it's just like you said, it's depressing, but like it's so well told that it's like, man, I can't believe like how well he's actually done that. And he's taken risks with this film as well, like casting Josh Hartnett. I love Josh Hartnett as an actor. I always wondered where this guy went. Like he made movies like The Faculty that kind of made him famous, and then he was in Pearl Harbor, this huge blockbuster. And then I think he did like 30 Days of Night, which was a moderately successful film. And then all of a sudden he was just making B, C, and D grade crap. And it was like, what happened to him? It's fantastic to see Guy Ritchie give him a role like this that like hopefully will put him back on the front page. Like, and people like Andy Garcia, like even though his part's not major in this, like it's just really good to see like Guy Ritchie making a movie that seems to take so many risks in its story, its style, and with its casting as well.
Yeah, like as you mentioned, like Guy Ritchie, there's a lot of flashbacks in this movie. And Guy Ritchie, he's a director who likes to play around with timelines in his films, like flashbacks and jumping backwards and forwards. I have a kind of a love-hate relationship with that, because I find sometimes it fits the movies and it works perfectly, like in his Sherlock Holmes movies, while other times I think it's completely pointless, which is the case with his King Arthur and Man from U.N.C.L.E. movies, and it actually made in those cases it made certain sequences incomprehensible for no reason really whatsoever. But this movie, he tells the story again with heavy use of flashbacks, but I think I find it suits this movie well. Like, it may have been a case that the original film was told in a similar manner, and maybe that's what attracted Guy Ritchie to the idea of doing a remake of it. But I think his style definitely suits this story, where we start out not knowing anything about H or his past, and then we're filled in with the flashbacks and where multiple perspectives. Though some of the secrecy to the characters and the jumping around in the story might confuse some audiences. To be honest, it's pretty simple math. I mean, the movie, it flat out tells you, we're going to flashback 5 months, flash forward 3 months. So if you can read a calendar, you should have no trouble keeping up. But to be fair, in the media screening we saw, there were some reviewers talking about how confusing that element of the film was. I didn't find it confusing, like I said, and I'm actually somebody that, in some of his other movies, I consider his jumping around with timelines to be the worst part of the movie.
Yeah.
But in this case, I think it worked perfectly, and like I said, that's what I mean, that this was a movie that I think really suited his style, down to the ground.
Yeah, definitely. And I thought that it was really the only way that you could kind of tell this story as well, because if you had told it in a linear storyline, it would have given away too much information. Like, a lot of the mystery of the first half of this film is who is H. Like, as an audience, you end up liking him from the very start, but I think if Guy Ritchie had just made this film in a linear storyline, it would have been like, well, we know who he is, and it would have taken away a lot of that mystery about who he is and why he's doing what he's doing. So I think, I really, really liked that he kind of shot it in that style, and I'm trying so hard not to give stuff away. There's a moment in this film that where something happens and you're like, why the hell did that just happen? I don't get that reaction. And then it's revealed later on why that reaction happens. And it's like, now it makes sense. And I kind of like the fact that as an audience, you're left with that many twists and turns, because I think we do see so much lazy filmmaking these days where people just spell everything out for their audience. I kind of like the fact that Guy Ritchie makes you work a little bit.
Yeah, that's something about how this movie, that kind of question, and then the answer coming up later with how it's revealed. He seems to really like doing that, and in some, with King Arthur, there was no reason for him to do that, and that's why it bugged me in that movie. But in a movie like this, or Sherlock Holmes, or any of his other movies, where it either works for the style or just really works well for the story. More so than the flashbacks being a problem, I think some of the issues with the film might have come from the antagonists, such as they are, suffering from being introduced so late in the story. It's done in a way that shows they were always around, but it does mean that those characters felt a little underwritten. However, considering that none of the characters are terribly complex, it wasn't an issue for me, because it wasn't like that's what I was looking for in this movie. The thing is, there are some parts where the movie does, in fact, get a little hard to follow, simple as it is. For example, there's a plot point, trying to not spoil anything, but I mean, there's a plot point about one group investigating robbery gone bad, and like I've seen this movie twice now. The movie doesn't really make it clear that they weren't the ones who actually hit this truck. Like, you're wondering, why don't they know who it was who was working for them? Because the way the story is told, you don't quite know that what's going on until the film's true antagonists are introduced.
Yeah.
So there was just that one little part that when I saw the movie the second time, I had to lean over to my brother and say, oh yeah, and like had to explain what was going on, because watching it that second time, I realized, yeah, like the jumping backwards and forwards, that wasn't confusing. It was just a little bit in the dialogue. They didn't actually make it really clear that this is what was going on. And I think that might be why, as I said, some people might find the movie a little bit confusing. It's just maybe a little bit more care needed to be taken in small little areas with the story. But once you're kind of caught up and they actually do start introducing antagonists, anybody with half a brain should be able to figure out what's going on in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It's just like maybe a little part here and there, but because how the story is told, maybe there was a little bit of an issue there.
What did you think of Jason Statham's performance in this film as well? Because he's kind of an unusual actor in that when you actually go back over his body of work, he's made some films that you and I love, but he isn't always known as an actor that can pull off like dramatic acting. Like when you go back and have a look at his career, there's like films like The Transporter in there. There's films like Crank, The Meg, where it's pretty much like all action based, and he's made a name for himself as an action star. What did you think of him in this film, though, where he's actually kind of got to do some dramatic and kind of heartfelt moments as well?
I thought he was great in this. As you say, it's a movie that really does suit him as an actor. It's not. There are some dramatic and some emotional moments in the film, but it's not something that it's not a Daniel Day-Lewis kind of role.
Yeah.
So it's a movie that it really does perfectly suit his character and what we as fans of Jason Statham will look for in a Jason Statham movie. Like I remember leaning over to you and saying, like, towards the end, it's like it's kind of like a serious heist film, but with Jason Statham in it.
Which
was really like, I love that. It doesn't have Robert De Niro, it doesn't have Al Pacino. No, it's got Jason Statham, and that's what makes the movie such a kick-ass film, that it knows that's what it is. Like, it really worked well for for audiences that like him headbutting a shark, for example. You know, like that's
that's me.
Yeah, me too. You know, like that's like it's a Jason Statham movie. It's like it was really great seeing a kind of a Guy Ritchie, Jason Statham collaboration again, and for them just to mesh like so well in this film, and to like make the comparisons to Heat as well. Like the gunfights in this movie were great. Like just the sound design in this movie. Like I think it deserves to be nominated for an Oscar for sound design, for how amazing those gunfights sounded.
Yeah.
That was amazing, and the movie, it was so great. It just really, I can't say it any other way. It's such a kick-ass movie.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It is. It's like it's just absolutely brilliant. I guess that probably leads us to, what are you going to give this 1 out of 5?
I'm going to give this 4.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. I know it's not a perfect film, but it's exactly, as I say, it's exactly what I was looking for in a Guy Ritchie, Jason Statham movie. And like I've said before, how much I hate remakes. The original film of this came out in like 2004, so it's not like this is a movie that hey, this is a foreign movie that's doing well. Let's make an American version of it. This movie makes me even want to go back and just check out the original movie just to see what that's like. And also, I didn't know that the original movie stars Best Actor Oscar winner Jean Dujardin, who's my favorite French actor. So, yeah, I definitely want to check that out now. So, it really an amazing movie. It's probably my favorite movie of the year so far. So a 4.5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, I'm giving this one 5 out of 5. I don't very often give out 5s, but I just absolutely love this film. I thought Statham was fantastic in it. I thought Guy Ritchie was amazing with like the style and everything that he brought to this film. Now you've got me thinking about what would happen if Daniel Day-Lewis and Jason Statham teamed up in a movie, and now I want to write My Left Trigger Finger, the film for both of them. But look, I just absolutely love this film. I think if you love gangster films, if you like crime films, you are going to absolutely love this film. So yeah, 5 stars from me. And that's it for this episode looking at Wrath of Man. Kyle gave it 4.5 out of 5. I gave it 5 out of 5. Go along, check it out if you love these kind of films, because I think you're going to absolutely love it. But for now, I've been Dave G.
And I've been Kyle.
And we'll be back very, very soon with another episode of The Popcorn Conspiracy.